The tragedy has hit the family who loved before they were locked up. Fans are in shock after learning that several cast members of the popular reality show have died in shocking and sad ways. What started out as a show about second chances is now marked by real-life deaths. The pain, the news stories, and the stories that haven't been told about these deaths will make you silent. This is what we know. Like Subotina's sad slide. People first met Alla Subotina and her boyfriend James Christia in the first episode of the series. Their story was sad and complicated. Their relationship wasn't like most. In a strange place, built across the distance and obstacles of a prison wall, it grew. Alla, who is in prison for 5 years at Tay Cheetah Correctional Institution near Milwaukee, Wisconsin, on heroin-related charges, met James through a pen pal service. Their letters created a bond that went beyond how bad things were for her while she was in jail, giving her hope and the chance for a fresh start. For Ayla, her friendship with James was more than just being with someone. It saved my life. She was able to hold on to him during the worst times of her life while she was in prison because he gave her mental support and a connection. When she was freed in July 2017, it looked like this bright side might finally turn into something real and long-lasting. With her newfound freedom from prison walls, Alla seemed ready to take back her life and leave her difficult past behind. The cameras caught this hopeful moment, showing her first tentative steps into the outside world, her work to rebuild, and how she cared for her relationship with James, whom she had by her side during the rough change. On the other hand, getting better isn't always easy, especially for people who are addicted. Even though she was determined at first, Ayla's fight with drugs was far from over. Cracks started to show while the movie was being filmed. She sadly relapsed, which was a terrible failure that showed how much addiction controlled her life. One scary moment that was caught on camera was when James found her passed out on the bathroom floor. This heartbreaking scene was a stark reminder of how fragile healing is and how hard things can be for many people after they get out of jail. Alla went to a rehabilitation center to get help because she was determined to fight her problems. She relapsed, though, and the effects were harsh and quick. In less than 6 weeks after shooting ended, the state took away her parole and sent her back to prison. The public and watchers who had grown to care about her journey saw this as a crushing blow. It was a time when the harsh realities of addiction and the criminal justice system overshadowed the hope that had been shining so brightly. During a special episode of Love After Lockup in November 2018, it was shown that Alla was still in jail. The update was a somber checkpoint in her ongoing war. It reminded her that she still had a long way to go in her fight against addiction and its effects. The glimpse of her continued imprisonment was a stark reminder of how cruel the cycle of addiction can be, trapping people in a never-ending circle of trying to recover and failing. When Alla was freed again in July 2021, she was given a second chance. She had another chance to start over, to change her story, and to finally break free from the chains of addiction with this freedom. Sadly, though, this new chapter was over far too quickly. Found dead, only 31 years old, not even a month after getting out of jail. Her untimely death was a terrible blow to those who had thought her story would have a different ending. Elena, Ayla's mother, wrote an incredibly moving tribute to her daughter after she died. It captured the deep sadness and pain that addiction causes. Elena said with heavy sadness in her voice that addiction had won today. Alla, my beloved daughter, died this morning. This makes me so sad, and I hope she's feeling better now. Elena's words were not only about losing her daughter, but also about how cruel addiction is. It's a disease that never goes away, and it can often break even the greatest will. She also thought about the long, hard road Alla had been on, realizing that her daughter's life had been ruled by addiction for a long time. It is a shame that my daughter had been struggling with addiction for so long. These touching words are a painful reminder of the human cost of addiction numbers and the personal stories that are too often hidden by shame and lack of understanding. The secret struggles of Scott Davey. Another sad story that ran through the first season of Love After Lockup was that of Scott Davey, a man whose battles with addiction ended in death. Not in the cast himself, but he is with someone who is. The terrible story of Scott shows how addiction can affect relationships, making them harder to handle and even breaking even the strongest ties. Scott first met Lizzie Combs through meetanandmate.com, a pen pal service for prisoners that helps them make friends and get support while they are locked up. For things that happened in the past that were very important to her, Lizzie had been in jail for 8 years. For Scott, who had a complicated past that included time in federal jail, meeting her was the start of a new chapter. It was a chance for both of them to find hope and maybe even healing through each other. From the start, Scott did things that made it clear that he loved Lizzie. Throughout the years, he gave her money to help her while she was still in jail, which was more than just being kind. This support was Lizzie's lifeline. It showed her that someone cared about her, believed in her, and was ready to stand by her no matter what her past was like or what problems she faced in the future. Lizzie was finally freed, and Scott and Lizzie's friendship went through a new stage. However, going from being in jail to living outside of prison was not an easy process. The couple's problems started early and didn't go away. They were made worse by the stress of reintegrating, unsolved issues, and, most importantly, addiction. Even though things were hard for them, they decided to get engaged, which showed that they thought their relationship could survive and even grow after their problems were over. But in the end, the engagement ended in sadness. Scott and Lizzie broke up, but their rough relationship didn't go away. But instead, it spread to the next show, Life After Lockup, where people could see how tense and argumentative they were with each other. Their fights showed raw feelings, anger, betrayals, and the deep pain that often lies beneath relationships that are made harder by drug abuse and jail time. When Lizzie gave Scott a home drug test, it was one of the most telling and upsetting parts of the story. This fight showed how hard it was for Scott to deal with his own problem. A fight that mirrored the problems many people in their group were having, but it was often hidden by threats and denials. Scott told her that he was having problems with drugs, which put their relationship at even greater risk. Scott had a long and complicated past of addiction. He had been to federal jail, which made the years after he got out even harder. His drug problems got worse after he had knee surgery and was given Vicodin to help with the pain. Sadly, what started out as legal medical care turned into dependence and abuse. Scott said he had used drugs besides Vicodin, like methamphetamine and heroin, which are known for having terrible effects on both people and families. His fight with addiction wasn't just a private matter. It was shown to the public on the show, giving people an honest look at the cycles of relapse and recovery. Scott was painfully aware of how strongly addiction held him down. Even though he seemed to be making progress at times, the sickness remained a formidable enemy. Scott Davies' story finished way too soon, which was sad. He died in November 2021, not long after shooting a WETV special about dating and being in jail. He was 54 years old. The official cause of his death was not made public, but people who knew him well thought that relapses were a factor in his sudden death. His death was a stark warning of how dangerous addiction is, even for people who work hard to beat it. People in the Love After Lockup group and viewers who had followed Scott and Lizzie's journey were saddened by his death. It brought home the sad truth that addiction is a sickness that can kill, even when people love, support, and want to help. His story is a sad look at the problems that many people in recovery face. How the fight against addiction isn't just fought in rehab or a clinic, but also in places where trust, hope, and relationships are weak. The show showed how complicated love can be when it involves drugs through the story of Scott and Lizzie. It showed how two people, each with their own problems and pasts, can want to connect but are sometimes stymied by the ghosts of their pasts and the relentless power of drug addiction. You can see a clear picture of Scott's life from his time in prison to his struggles with painkillers and hard drugs. He was stuck in the cycles of addiction and was trying to hold on to love and life amidst the chaos. The second season of Love After Lockup told the tumultuous and heartbreaking story of Tracy Wagamond and her husband, Clint Brady. Their love story started with a quick marriage, but quickly fell apart as they dealt with the harsh realities of addiction and the problems that often come with life after prison. MeetAndInmate.com is how Tracy and Clint got to know each other. This website is meant to help prisoners find friends and support while they are locked up. Both of them had been in prison. As for Tracy and Clint, both of them had been in prison before. Because they had been through similar things, they formed a bond that seemed to offer understanding and support in a world where starting over is never easy. Once Tracy got out of jail, the couple's relationship moved quickly. Tracy and Clint got married just hours after she got out of jail, which was a time of great feeling and hope. It was a sign of a new beginning and a chance to start a new life together. The instant wedding was a dramatic and hopeful event that showed how excited and hopeful two people were about leaving the past behind and starting a new life together. However, the hope didn't last long. Tracy's problems with addiction, which got her locked up in the first place, came back almost right away. She was determined to stay clean and start a life with Clint, but she couldn't get away from her drug use. Her problems quickly put a lot of stress on the marriage. Soon, Tracy was back in jail, caught in the cycle of failure and jail time that many people face after getting out of prison. This cycle was terrible for both Tracy and Clint. Clint was trying to help the woman he loved while dealing with his own problems and the complicated feelings that came up when he saw someone he cared about fall apart. Under the stress, their relationship got worse, and in the end, Tracy chose to end her relationship with Clint for good. Tracy's life changed when she broke up with her boyfriend. She moved on from the shadow of her ex-boyfriend and into a new chapter, even if it is still full of problems. Tracy went to Las Vegas after the breakup. The city is known for its exciting nightlife and chances to start over. She changed who she was by becoming a model on OnlyFans, a site that let her make content and money on her own. This change in work was very different from her old life, but it also showed how difficult her journey had been as she tried to stay alive, become financially independent, and keep fighting her own demons. Joshua Lara, an ex-con who was 10 years Tracy's younger, became her boyfriend while she was in Las Vegas. Their relationship was a fresh start full of hope and energy, but Tracy's marriage to Clint was still going strong, which made things more complicated. In this complicated situation, Tracy told everyone that she was pregnant with Luke's child, a discovery that made her life more difficult on a mental and legal level. Tracy and Clint's divorce was finally finalized by the court in June 2021. This meant the end of a marriage that had been full of love, pain, and suffering. Tracy had a C-section to give birth to her second child that same month. It was a girl. The birth of her child was a very important event in her life, a time when happiness and hope should have been in the air. Tracy's life was far from easy, though, because her addiction continued to cast a long shadow over her future. Tracy's life was tragically cut short just days after she was sent home from the hospital after giving birth. She was found dead in a Las Vegas hotel in July 2021 after taking too much drugs by accident. At only 32 years old, her death was a sad reminder of how dangerous addiction is and how fragile recovery is. Love During Lockup by Asanta Goldston. Many people who watched the show Love During Lockup knew the name Asanta Goldston. The show shows the intimate, raw, and often hard truths of romantic relationships that are put to the test by incarceration. Unfortunately, his story of hope, strength, and complicated love came to a sudden and sad end on September 1st, 2023, when he died in a terrible car accident. He was only 33 years old. Asanta's life, like many on the show, was full of problems and difficulties that really hit home with viewers. Love. During Lockup tells the stories of people who are involved with the court system and shows how hard it is to keep love and connection alive when you are separated and don't know what will happen next. Asanta's story touched people's hearts because it showed both the pain of being locked up and the hope for a better future. Asanta was driving that terrible day when the terrible accident happened. According to reports, he was going very fast in a no passing zone. This is a section of road that is meant to keep cars safe by not letting them pass in dangerous or limited view areas. When someone chose to speed up in this area, it caused a terrible accident with another car. The impact was strong, and when rescue workers got to the scene, Asanta wasn't moving. His death was confirmed at the scene, which is sad. The loss came on quickly and shocked his family, friends, and the Love during Lockup group. The people in the other car were lucky to only have minor injuries that did not put their lives in danger. But the accident itself was a sad warning of how quickly things can go wrong and how unsafe the roads are. It was hard for the other drivers physically and emotionally after the accident. They have scars from the event that changed their lives forever. As word of Asanta's death spread, fans and co-stars of Love during Lockup spoke of their sadness and paid respect to a man whose life had been hard at times, but also had moments of love and hope. There were a lot of sad and happy posts on social media about his death and the memories people shared of him on the show. The story of Asanta about Love, during his time in jail, gave fans a close look into his life. The show showed how hard it is to keep a relationship going when there are problems like prison, as well as how strong and vulnerable people can be when they're trying to connect with others in tough situations. Many people could relate to his story because it was based on real emotions and showed the hard truths that many people face as they try to find love, freedom, and redemption. His premature death at age 33 adds another tragic layer to his story. He was cut off from what could have been a way to grow and start over. Asanta was more than just a reality TV star to people who followed his story. He stood for the problems many people go through in prison and the need for everyone to be understood, loved, and free. What happened before and after the accident brought up questions about the risks and stresses that people like Asanta face after they get out, such as having trouble adjusting and making decisions when they are under a lot of stress. Driving too fast in dangerous areas can be a sign of deeper problems like mental turmoil, an attempt to escape reality, or just a terrible mistake in judgment. No one knows for sure why Asanta was moving so quickly, but the results were terrible. Aside from the shock and grief that followed Asante's death, it brought up bigger problems about safety, mental health, and support systems for people who have been in prison. Finding work, rebuilding relationships, dealing with trauma, and navigating environments that can be both physically and mentally dangerous are some of the huge problems that people face when they try to get back into society. There are real risks that come with this change. Asanta's death is a sad reminder of how important it is to offer a wide range of services and care. The person's family and friends have had to deal with both the pain of losing a loved one and the shock and violence of his death. Losing someone so suddenly makes the pain even worse, and many people are left looking for answers and meaning in their heartbreak. During these times, support networks and community outreach are very important for helping people find comfort and strength. Even though Asante's legacy is full of sadness, it can also bring about change. His story starts conversations about how important second chances are, how being locked up affects people's daily lives, and how to keep fighting the problems that come after getting out of jail. It helps us remember that every news story has a person behind it, with hopes, fears, and the ability to love. The Love. The During Lockup series itself is a testament to the strength of the human spirit, showing that people can make links and change their lives even in the worst situations. Even though Asanta didn't have long to live, his story is still an important part of this bigger story. moving people's hearts and telling them how fragile life is and how important it is to be kind. After his death, many people have called for more attention to be paid to road safety and mental health care, especially for people who are just getting out of prison. It's more important than ever for programs to help people get back into society safely and happily, and Asante's story makes these efforts even more important. Although Asante Goldston is no longer with us, those who knew him and watched his journey will always remember him. His life was full of both hardship and hope, and it's a powerful lesson that behind every number is a story that should be told and respected. What do you think about what happened to the show's cast? Please tell us what you think in the box below. We hope this video was helpful for you. Kindly click like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the video. Glad you watched, and see you in the next film. Thank you.